in this business of needing to see that mental space is curved, we come to an image perhaps of a cycle or circle, and certainly Empedocles thought that there were two creative forces, Philotes, which is love, and Nikos, which is strife, and that everything was created out of the dance of love with strife. And that is actually a very interesting concept to work with, but I prefer to give it a slight tweak and say that this suggests, rather like Nietzsche's idea of the repetition of eras, of time, of a circle, but that it's not quite a circle, it's more like a spiral. Because as we come back on the loop, when we don't actually coincide with where we first came from, because now it's a different time and we are different. So we come back to a place where it's somewhat above the old place, and so on. And the great joy of this image of a spiral is that viewed straight down the core of the spiral, it appears to be a perfect circle. Viewed along its length, it appears to be a wave. So it has both directionality and circularity built into it. And I think that is the structure that we need to hold to. And I quote that wonderful riff by Friedenstreich Hundertwasser, Austrian painter and architect. His invective against the straight line, which will be the downfall of mankind, he says. But the thing about the circle is that it is symmetrical in the mathematical sense that it can be moved without anything appearing to change. So that whereas with a spiral, the movement actually does change something and does make a progression. It's just that it's not a linear progression. Yes. Oh. And you know, there was so much to say about that, but you know that later in the book I quote Jung's. Well, it's not Jung. It was told me by a Swiss doctor who had grown up with a neighbor in summer who was Carl Gustav Jung. And so he remembers talking to the old man when he was a young man. And Jung told him that he had visited a Pueblo Indian in, I think, New Mexico, and that he had said, "The white man is doomed." And Jung asked, why? Why did he say that? And he said, because the white man, and here he put his fingers on his nose and then reached out in a straight point. He sees only one point in the picture and goes straight for it. And that made a big impression on Jung and on this doctor. Jung's remark made a great impression on this young doctor. This doctor when he was young, and he in later life was talking to a Swiss businessman who had been extraordinarily successful, and he asked him what was his secret, and he said, because I only see this one thing ahead of me and I go straight for it. So that is the recipe in the spirit of the coincidence of opposites. That is the recipe for success and for total disaster. And we're seeing it now because a few people think that they've made a success, but even they haven't really made a success in anything that matters. They may have made a lot of money and amassed a lot of capital, but have they really succeeded in being fully fulfilled human beings? And certainly as a society, we're seeing how this is profoundly destructive.